Hey, what's up? My name is Chris, and welcome to Coding in Public. This video is all about the Fetch API. Now, this is the fourth in my JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript challenges series, but you don't need to have done the first three. It's disconnected from those, so you can jump right in here. And we're going to be using an endpoint called dummy JSON. This service right here, you can see it's got a bunch of different endpoints for products and carts and users. And as we work through the 7 challenges I have for you, you'll be interacting with those docs. Now, how do you get the code? Well, if you go to the link in the description, just make sure you've grabbed challenge 4 blank. Then you can come over here and download the zip, and it'll open it up in your favorite code editor like I've done over here in VS Code. Now, with all this set up, what I'm going to encourage you to do is pause the video and then work through the 7 questions yourself and then come back. Now, before you do that, let me point out a couple things. Number one, I do have an index.html page, and if you want to get this running up with live server or something like that and see a lot of your results in the console, that's totally fine. I do also have a style sheet that's very basic, and it will basically just be used once when I ask you to put some stuff out in the DOM. Other than that, the other things to note are that I've done this a little bit ago, so it's going to be pretty much fresh for me as I walk through this because I haven't memorized the answers that I wrote down at that time. So you may come up with a different answer than I do. Maybe yours is going to be better than mine, or maybe yours is way more verbose and you realize, hey, I made that way harder than it needed to be. If you get the end result, then you did it right, all right? And it's okay if it's not perfect. This is part of learning. You'll always find better ways to do things, but what I'd encourage you to do is just work until you can find the right result and then move on to the next one, all right? And then you can go back and then optimize, and that's another great skill is learning how to compress your code. If you find something that you did better than I did in the video, which is very possible, go ahead and leave a comment in the description. I'd love to be able to learn from you as well. That's really what coding in public is all about. Let's learn from each other and get better progressively together. Okay? Well, with that out of the way, I'll let you pause the video, work through these questions, and then be right back with me. All right, I hope you had a great go of it. What I'm going to do is go ahead and pull this over this way and open up the docs, and we'll use these as we need to. Okay? All right, let's start with the very first one here. Create a fetch function called custom fetch. So we'll say function, a custom fetch that hits the dummy products endpoint and console logs, returns the data. Okay, so let's come in here and let's see, this needs to be in a sync. So let's just say res equals await, and then we're going to fetch, and let's go ahead. Now I've got this base URL up here, and I think if I remember right, I was thinking that you might like pull it in that way. I'm not sure why. So maybe I'll remember later, but if I come in here and grab this right here, I can just dump it in here. I'll fetch that, and then let's just grab it as JSON and say res.json. All right, and then we need to console log this, and then what else do we need to do? Return the data as well, so return JSON as well. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'm going to pull up this in live server. All right, and once I've done that, let me open up the console. Seeing something happen. Okay. Now let's go ahead and run this custom fetch, just like that, and it should send back. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to await this. Okay. Await. All right, so there we go. We got all the product coming back just as we'd expect. That's good to know. All right, let me go ahead and kill this so I don't see that anymore, and maybe kill that as well. All right, update the custom fetch function to take in an endpoint and handle errors. I think that's why I had that base URL, including a ROND endpoint. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just comment all this out and come down here, and we'll update this a little bit. So it's supposed to take in a custom endpoint. So maybe we just call this endpoint. And then what I'm going to do is replace all of this here. Let's put this in backticks. I had a base URL, and then I will add my endpoint on the end of this. All right, endpoint. And that way it can be custom as we go. Now, when you get this back, let's come in here and let's console log this, and I'll say custom fetch, and let's say something like something that doesn't exist. So whatever, all right? So that's not going to exist. So I should actually get a response back, but we'll see what happens here. So I get all these errors and stuff, but you'll see that I do get a response back no matter what. It just says okay, false, and gives me a status code of 404. So if you don't handle that error, then any kind of try catch block is not going to catch that. So I'll show you what I mean. If I come in here, normally I'd wrap this in some kind of try catch. So I bring this up here. I'm going to try all of this, and then maybe I'd say return JSON, assuming that that is all accurate. Catch any other errors, and maybe I'd say let's just console.error, the error.message, something like that. All right, so if I do that, you'll notice that it's not actually catching this error. It's still sending me this right here. All right, does that make sense? And then I'm getting a second error down this way. In other words, it's still trying to do something with this data right here. And obviously there's nothing for it to do. So I'm getting kind of multiple errors for that reason. So let me go ahead and get rid of this right here. And the way we can handle that is just running a little if statement. So I could say like if res is not okay, then I want to throw a new error. All right, so throw new error. And I could say something like, well, let's just pass in the res.status maybe. That should give me like 404 or whatever. Maybe let's do this. Let's add it. Yeah, let's add it as a string and say res.status. And then we'll say over here, res.status text. All right, something like that. And now I should throw 404 not found. All right, so there you go. All right, otherwise, if I pass in a legitimate endpoint, so I think products is one, if I remember correctly. That's what we just did up top, right? Yeah. So products down this way. See, I'm not console logging anymore. So I'll come in here and now I should be able to see this. Okay, so there we go. So that one works legitimately. If I mess it up and do something that doesn't exist, I get this error. All right, so that mostly works, and I can pass in my own custom endpoint each time. All right, so we're going to call that one done, I think. I'll come back over here, create a function called getProducts that returns all the products in an array, then list all the products in the DOM in an unordered list. Okay, so let's start with an async. And I guess let's make this an arrow function, all right, just to kind of mix it up a bit. So I'll say get products. And this will be async. And then I think what I want to do is, let's see, I don't know that I need to pass in a URL because it's always going to be products because products is the endpoint. So let's come down here and let's first of all get all the titles. And so let me jump over here to actually see what's going on. So products, that's how I get all the products. Single product. Looks like I can limit them, which I don't really need to do here because I need all of the products. All right, let me just refresh myself on what I actually get here. So let's come in here and grab this here, and I'll jump over this way. Okay, so I'm getting back an object, and I've got an array of products inside of that called products. So I need basically that dot products, right? So JSON dot products, like that. All right, now out of here, each of these are an object, and what I need is what? All the products in the DOM as an ordered list. So I just need their titles. So these title right here. So, okay, that's not too bad. All right, so let's clear all this out, and I'll come back down. Let's see, back down this way. We got to leave this open because we're going to actually use it here. So I'm going to get rid of that call, but then come down here, and let's first of all grab all the titles, I guess. So let's say let's just call data first. So we'll say await custom fetch, and I guess I could have just copied that in, but this will be products, and then I want to grab the titles from that. So I'll say titles, and this will be data.products.map. I just want to map over each of the products, and I want to return a product.title. All right. So now I've got all the titles. I should have them all listed out in an array. And now what I want to do is actually create a list item for each of those items. So I think what I'm going to do is actually create a little helper function up here. So let's call something like const create list item, and it's going to take in an item. All right. And then it will return here just a string of HTML that will have the title in here, or what I call it, item in here. Or maybe I should have called that, I should have called it title probably, because that's what it is. But I guess to keep it more generic, that should be fine. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is say const list items equals to titles dot map, and then I'm going to take the title, let's just call it T, and say create list item, and I'll pass it the T. And then when I get all those back, it'll still be in an array because this is a map, not an amp. All right, and then so after that map, let's see, I need to join it, right? So join it on nothing. So now it will give me just a string of HTML. So let's just double check this is working as I expect. So I'll do that. Should wait a little bit, and when I get it back, maybe. Oh, I gotta actually call it like this. Here we go. All right, so it's just a string of HTML, which is what I want. So what it's doing here is it's first getting the products, which is all of those objects, and then inside of that there is an array called products, and that has each of the individual product properties on it. And I loop through each of those and extract just the title, and then I take that title and I send it through my little generator here where it's going to create a list item for it, and now that's what I have here. So all I have to do at this point is, I guess, just return, let's do document.body.insert adjacent HTML, and you can do this with a couple of different APIs, but this is the one I'll use here. After begin, and then what I want in this case is a string of HTML with a UL, because I need it to be an unordered list. And then in the middle here, I'm just going to have list items. All right, there we go. And I decided to add some CSS just to make it look decent. I don't know. I looking at stuff that looks bad even on practice time. So there you go. All right. Now we've got all those items listed out in the DOM. All right, number 4, update the custom fetch function to handle add, delete, or update requests. Okay, so use the updated function to update and then delete a product by its ID. So it looks like as long as you have product slash whatever, it'll access the ID of one. So I can delete it by going to this and sending along a method of delete. Here, the post and see, this is update and okay, so this is updating as well. So like putting or patching as well. Here, post a new product to the list of products, which I can do with the add endpoint. Okay, so basically the endpoint thing is fine because I already have it to where I can pass in a custom endpoint. I just now need to be able to pass in a method along with that. All right, so I'm thinking what we'll do, let's come back up top. Where's that custom fetch right here? So we've got our endpoint, right? Let's just pass in like options. All right, that way it can be really flexible because like for delete, I don't need to pass on a body, and for let's see, I guess add, I would probably need to pass on application JSON, but for I guess for putting and for posting, I would need to pass on additional items. All right, like a body. All right, so let's think through what this might look like. I guess really at its most basic, all I would need to do is pass in a comma here, and then spread out whatever I have into this this object right here. So these options right here should be passed in. I think that's all. Okay, let's try it. All right, so I'll come in here and I should get some kind of response back. So let's do custom fetch, and in this case, what I want is to what am I doing? I guess I want products. Let's start with deleting. All right, so we'll say products/1. And you can see here that this should allow me to delete the first one. And when I do that, I should get back some kind of console log here, assuming that I didn't delete my console log, which I probably did. Custom fetch res. Okay, so let's grab this right here and make sure that this is, I'll just delete all this. All right, like that. All right, and I'm getting this back, and let's see. This is what I want. Oh, it's hitting this twice. So once for this. So let's not get products anymore. All right, so there we go. So I am getting this back, which is good. So now I'm at least fetching that. Now I need to pass in the options object. Now in this case, all I need to pass is method and then delete. All right, when I do that, I should also get something back, and it should say, oh, okay, so here it says deleted on. Is that what it's supposed to do? Let's come over here. Delete. Somewhere. Just not going to turn to it for me. Here we go. We'll return a deleted product with is deleted and on. Okay. So is deleted true, and then it gives me this deleted. Okay, so that worked. Cool. So that's my delete. That's good. Let's copy this down and make sure that this works with, what was the other one that used that endpoint? Looks like updating, so like put. So here we'd want put, and we'll need some additional things here. So I could say like body, and this needs to be json.stringify, and I'm just going to update this with like a new title. So I'm just going to update one property, and I could say something like updated. All right, that way we know it worked. Now I also need to pass on one more thing here, which is a content type, and this needs to say application JSON. All right, so if I did that all correctly, that should work. Let's go ahead and comment this one out so we only get the one back. Okay, here we go. Title, no, did not work. Okay, so let's think through this. What did I mess up? Well, I can tell you what I messed up. This needs to be in a headers key. All right, so this is the value, and now here's the title, and it says updated. Okay, so that worked as well. Cool. The last one then is just, actually, let's copy this down because I think it's going to be pretty similar. We need to access a different endpoint the add endpoint, and then you can add additional products, and I should get back something. All right, so if I come over here, just change this out to add, and then let's remove all of this, and let's say post, and then new post, something like that. All right, if I do that, here we go, and I get an ID of 101, so it's assigned it a new ID as well. Cool. I'm guessing if I do this twice, yeah, okay, so it's not actually adding it, it's just pretending to add it and sending you back a response, which is great. All right, so that works. That's 1 through 4. All right, 5 through 7 starts to get a little bit more complicated. Create a function called getFilteredUsers. The console logs and returns all the users who are 21 years old in a new array of objects in the following structure. Whew, okay, all right, so we've got users, posts, and comment endpoints we need to pay attention to. So let's first of all see about getting the users right here. Maybe let's see. Limit and skip users. Let's see what we can do. User 1. So can I do it by like, I forget how this works. You can pass a key, nested keys with a period, and values as params to filter users. Okay, so they are case sensitive. So like key hair, and I could do hair.color and value equals. Okay, so I got to pass them separately. That's a little awkward, but that's okay. You can use the custom fetch used earlier. Okay, cool, because I want to. All right, so let's first of all say function get filtered users. This doesn't need to take in anything because we're going to actually filter it. Although I guess we could pass that in. Maybe we should. Let's pass that in as a parameter. So we could say something like key and val. All right, and we can make it a little bit more dynamic that way. So I could say const data, and this needs to be in a sync so that this can be awaited. We'll say custom fetch. And in this case, what I want to custom fetch is, what's this endpoint here? Users, filter, and then here I'll have key equals, and this needs to be like that, so I can actually dynamically set things in here. So let's grab the key right here, and then it looks like I have to say and value equals, and this will be val. All right, so I should be able to come in here and just say const, or let's console log that to start with. I'll say get filtered users, and I should be able to pass in the key and the value. So for instance, I'd pass in like age and then 21, right? I think. All right, so let's try that and see what happens. Jump back over here. Well, it doesn't like us. Key is age and value equals 21. It's a bad request, so let me make sure I did that correctly. Filter, not filters. Is that all it was? Hey, look at that. So I get 4 users back. They should all be, let's console.table this. Actually, let's console.table this.users. Oh, I got to get rid of all these comments for it to work. Okay. That's not what I wanted. What do I want here? Users dot age. I got to map through each of those. Okay, well, I can see age 21. That's really all I was going for. All right, so we got that set. That's good. What else do we need to do? So I need to manipulate the data a little bit because as this is, it's kind of messy. So let's get all the users, and then I'm going to grab their name property, their age, and their email. Okay, and we've got their data already. Let's now filter through those. So let's say something like const, I don't know, let's call them filtered users at this point, and then we'll say that's data.users, because there's an array, remember, over there on the right, .map, and what I want is to take the user, we'll just call him u, and then, let's see, I guess if we're going to return an object, I can just return it directly. To return an object directly from a map here without the return keyword, so an implicit return requires that you put it inside of parentheses, and then I can come in here and say name, and this is something like user, I'm guessing, dot first name, yeah, first name, and then we'll do the same thing except user dot last name, I would think. All right, next we'll say age is, let's just look at this endpoint, dot age, where's my email? Is it just email? Okay, yeah. So not too bad here. We'll just say age is user dot age, and then email is user dot email. All right, so if I did that correctly, then I can just return this, return, and let's see, let's also console log it. Let's console table it just to make it actually work for us. All right, let's see. Oh, I called all of these U instead. Okay, there we go. So there we go. We got everything back, and you can see it here. Actually, that's not that. This is the table. So this is what they each have. There are objects with each of these things: name, age, and email. And in case you want to see what it looks like, it should show us here. That's exactly what we want: an array with each of these things as objects inside of it. All right, cool. That was fun. All right, so let's kill that just so we don't get it calling again. And then alter the getFilteredUsers function to return all filtered users in an object with an ID. Okay, so let me pull this here. Did we get ahead of ourselves a little bit? I'm not sure. Maybe we did. So alter the getFilteredUsers function to return all filtered users in an object with the ID as the key and the user object as the value. Okay, I think I understand that. I'm not exactly sure why I called this filtered users because they're not really filtered anymore. So let's just rename this. That's a dumb name. All right, we'll say get or manipulate all user data or something like that. All right, so we don't really need to take in anything at this point. And let's see, we want users, just all of them. There we go. And when I get them all back, I'm just going to map through these as well. Although actually, if I'm going to return this as an object, okay, I think what I need to do is reduce this here. So I'll use a reducer, and then we'll have an accumulated value in the user. And at the end, we want to pass this all into an object. Then all we're going to do is, let's see, I think the easiest thing is just going to be to push that. Or no, yeah. So, okay. So what we're going to do is I get rid of this and get rid of this. And then I'll grab all of this right here. And I'll say something like ACC user.id. And that is going to be equal to everything else in the user. All right. And then at the end, I just need to return the ACC. All right. I think that should work. And then the same thing should apply. So let me grab this here. And we'll manipulate all user data. User is not, did I do user again? Yes, I did. All right, so let's do U for both of those. And let's just log this because that's not helpful at all. All right, so here we go. We should have an ID of the user, and that should match up, and then everything below. All right, cool. So I had to use a little bit of reduce there. I'm not sure why I didn't just tell you to make a new one, but maybe you figured that out. That was a little confusing. All right, a new function, final one here. Create a new function called getCommentsOnUserPosts that takes in a user ID and returns all comments on any post by that user in an array of objects. All right, each object should contain two properties, post title and comments. Comments should contain the user ID of the commenter and the text. Bonus points for filtering out posts without comments. All right, well, this is complicated, but basically what we're going to want is a post title and then all the comments on that post title by any individual user, right? Okay, so get comments on users post. So let's look at some of these endpoints here. So I've got these users right here. And just to make it quicker, I'll just jump to it here. Get all users, single users, skip users. Can I get like users posts by user ID? Okay, so we first need to get the posts. Once we get the posts, I'm guessing, let's come in here. We should have another endpoint that we can then hit. Can we get all comments on posts? Get post comments, okay? And then what do I need with comments? I guess maybe I'll need something in here too. So let's leave those up just in case we need them. Let's start with getting all posts by the user ID. So looks like if you pass in users and then whatever their ID is and / posts, that should work. So let's come down here and we'll say function get that, and then we'll take in an ID. This is going to need to be an async function. And then let's get comments. Let's just go ahead and call it here on like number 1. All right, so the first thing I want is const all posts by user or something like that. And then I'll say await custom fetch. And what I want here is dynamic, I think. Yeah, so I want users. And then in here, according to that API over there on the side, I do their ID and then posts. So let's make sure, first of all, that we're getting this back like I expect. All right, so comments on users post, that's this one. All right, so that's all the posts they've done. All right, cool. And all these posts have IDs. So then what I need to do is loop through each of those IDs. So let's get up the post documentation here. And I'll say something here like all comments. and we'll just await. Now, because we're going to be awaiting several things here, let's go ahead and await, and we'll have to use a promise.all. So you can also do this with like a for of loop, I think, where you're going to be looping through things and actually do async await in here. But if you're going to use async await with map, you have to await all the promises and kind of do it like that. So we'll grab all posts by user. And then if I remember right, they were all in an array. So we'll call that posts, and then we'll map through those. So in this case, I'm going to do async right here, and then we'll do per post. Maybe let's put this in parentheses just to make it clear what this is. All right, so with each post, if I look over this way, it looks like, yeah, so I'll just wait for that. So let's call it something like posts comments. And then what I can do is do custom fetch, or wait my custom fetch. And what we're looking for in this case is, let's see, the endpoint of posts. And then in here would be the post, let's see. I'm looping through each of these comments. So I actually need the post.id here, and then comments. All right, let me see if I'm getting what I think I am here. So let's console log this and jump over here. All right, so I'm getting this lots of times because I'm having to loop through it for each of these people. But let's come in here. I should be getting, so they've got 0 comments. They've got 2 comments. Okay, so I am getting what I think. It's just I've also got other properties here, so I actually need the internal comments array in here. All right, this is starting to get a little complex, but hopefully you figured this out as you work through this. And learning how to read documentation and kind of figure out what kind of data you're getting back is most of the work when it comes to fetching. The actual functions usually aren't that difficult. It's just trying to figure out what you're actually getting and then what to manipulate that data as. All right, so then what I could say is if the total equals 0, we could just exclude this. So total equals 0, so something like if posts comments dot total equals 0, then I can just return out of this map. Now it's going to return undefined. We could also use a reducer here, but I think a reduce function here, but I think let's just keep it like this, okay? Otherwise, we'll just return like this. So we'll say post title, and at this point, I still have my post, which if I come back up this way, do I even have access to any of that here? Let's see, let's grab this post and let's console log it quickly. Console log that post. Sorry, like that. Okay, so I'm actually getting a post right here. So I've got a post title. All right, so let's do this. Let's get rid of that right here. And what I'll do is say post title equals post. Isn't that what I was supposed to do? Yeah, like that. Okay, so post dot title. And then I'll say, was it comments? So comments is going to be an array. Now, if you remember right here, I got back something with an array of comments in it. In fact, it's right down here. So if I click on this, now I get this comments array. Now each of these have an internal property here, so there might be a better way to do this. Maybe what I should do, because I need the user ID and the text. So yeah, let's do this. So up on top here, let's just say const comments equals comment, or what is it, post comments. And then I'm going to map through each of these dot comments dot map. Then I'll take the comment and I'm going to return here another object. So I'll wrap it in parentheses. And this object is going to say user, what was it, user ID. And then this will be, that'll point to the user ID over here. You can see it on the right. So that would just be what? Comment dot, or not comment, c dot user dot ID, I think. All right, and then I'll have the text of the comment after that, which we called text. All right, so text, and let's see, I need to come in here and just grab the body, right? So c dot body. Now what I can do is just return the comments here, and since it's named the same as its key, I can just return it like that. All right, I think that's all correct. All right, now the only other thing I need to do, because down here, let's see, I need to get all post comments and return that at the very end. So return all post comments. Now what I could do, I could just filter out these. So I could say filter like comment, as long as there's a comment, then show it, otherwise don't. Again, I could probably do this better with a reduce, but I think this is good enough for our purposes today. All right, something like that. Oh, I forgot a final one here, just to make sure I'm getting what we think. So at the very end here, if I get rid of the other console logs, wherever they happen to be, you can see here what I'm actually getting back is only those that actually have comments, even though that there were more up here. So like 3 here had nothing. I'm only getting back the 2 that I want. And you can see down here, if I were to pass in a different number, like 3, I should get a different user with their comments. Let's make sure somebody else has more than 2. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so here's one that has 3, and you can see that they've got a post title and then an array of all the comments in that. Each of these arrays then have text and user ID inside of this. All right, I think that looks right to me, and hopefully that was an enjoyable project for you. I know sometimes working with the Fetch API can be frustrating, mostly because of the endpoints. You're trying to figure out, like, how do I get the data I just want back? If you have another way, especially to compress this, let me know. I'm sure there are ways to improve upon this final one. All right, well, thanks so much for watching. I hope this was enjoyable and helpful for you. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding.